The Joe Rogan Experience.
This is a good time for a real good MMA film. You know, there's been some real good boxing films.
Mm-hmm.
The one that you did.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite experiences, actually. Cinderella Man.
Yeah, and the story of Braddock, I mean, that's an amazing story.
Great story.
Incredible story.
Yeah. We had met like funny resistance here with the release that people couldn't get their heads around the fact that a movie called Cinderella Man was about a boxer.
Fucking America.
It was like, really?
That's funny.
It's that hard to get? Yeah. And
I mean,
it was
it's
like...
classic thing. Cinderella story is a thing that is always used in sports.
Yeah, but she's supposed to be a chick, right?
But it's used for men in sports all the time.
Well, it was some famous American writer, Damon Runyon or whatever, who coined the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wrote that, you know, the story of James J. Braddock is a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
That's where he got the nickname, you know. But I just, you know, sometimes you're playing characters that you don't really rate as a person or whatever, or, you know, sometimes you're playing very negative characters. You know, earlier this year I did Nuremberg, where I played Hermann Goering. So that's going to be coming out soon. Looking forward to people seeing that. But Braddock was such an experience, man, because everything that I read about him, the stories I heard about him, I just liked him more and more, you know, which can be a bit of a dangerous thing. As an actor, I try not to fall in love with the character. You know, what I say is I'm in love with the job, you know. Mm-hmm. So if my job is to show you who that person is, whether it's positive or negative, you know. Because it's kind of weird, you know, you can't fall in love with Hitler, you know what I mean? It's sort of like if you're playing that role, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's sort of like, so that's how I sort of keep the objectivity. But, you know, I met Braddock's family and stuff like that, and they kept telling me stories that just made me like him more and more, you know? So it was, it was an honor to be able to play that role, really, and bring him back to a consciousness because people had forgotten about him.
Yeah. What was the physical training like?
It was Angelo, man. It was Angelo coming in. Okay, kid.
Angelo Dundee.
Yeah, there's one rule around here, and that is you listen to me. That's how we do it, right? I talk and you listen. And then I'm going to teach you to open anybody up like a can of tomatoes. That's what we're going to do, kid. Open them up like a can of tomatoes. Let's go.
Wow.
He was a great guy, man. I mean, what an incredible privilege to be given that beautiful man in my life, you know, with all his experience and his stories and, you know, and his attitude to things, man. He was like, you know, I mean, occasionally if you asked about somebody that he had a negative experience with, you know, he would sort of like see who's around or whatever, and he would just tell you the pure truth. But for the most part, anybody you asked him about, he was like, what a great guy, you know? And I asked him about it one day, and he was like, life's too short for the negatives, man. It's too short to have grudges or, you know, opinions, you know, negative stuff. Like, just let all that go, you know what I mean? So, but, you know, then in reality, he would have an opinion. Yeah. But for the public part of that was to just, like, be positive, you know? And he'd worked with so many fighters and so many different pursuits and under different pressures and what have you, Ali and Sugar Ray, blah, 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 you know, 15 world champions he coached, you know.
Wow.
That's incredible. And the beautiful thing happens, you can see it in Cinderella Man. There's a moment towards the end of the movie, right, where Braddock's won. He's won the world championship. And I'm standing in the ring and I'm walking towards my corner, right, and this little bald man walks towards me, right? And it's just this shot. I start laughing and I bend forward and I kiss him on his head, right? Because he's walking towards me in the ring and he was going, "Number 16, baby! Number 16!" And that's what he called me for the rest of his life. Whenever I saw him, he would introduce me to people as, "This is my friend Russell, number 16.
Wow.
Cool, man, right? But, you know, I mean, a normal day training for that film, you wake up in the morning, you go for a walk, you know, probably about 5Ks, right? Then we'd go and do yoga. Then we'd go and do the first boxing session, which would take us to lunch. We'd have a little bit of lunch. Then we'd do the second boxing session. After the second boxing session, we'd do weights. Then you'd have about 90 minutes off. Then we'd have dinner. and then you go for a walk. And the next day it would start all over again. You know, it was full on.
Whose idea was the yoga?
His.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the thing about Angelo. He had all the old stuff, but he was aware of all the new stuff as well. You know, that thing
yoga's
of
the
just
oldest
like,
stuff.
You know, just sitting, you know, I mean.
But for boxing.
We did yoga, but, you know, he only thought of it as stretching, you know. But it was, you know, yoga, and it was like he set the schedule and pace on everything for that film.
Wow.
Yeah, I had him in my working life for 6 months, man.
That's incredible.
It's just gold.
Did you think about having a fight?
Oh, we had a few.
Real ones?
Yeah.
Like in the gym?
There's real ones in the movie, mate.
Really?
Yeah. You get to a certain point, 5,500, 6,000 choreographed moves, right? You get to a certain point, how do you accelerate this? How do you change the rhythm, you know? So the fight with Troy, which I think is the last fight before the championship, that's 100% the two of us in the ring beating the piss out of each other.
Really?
Yeah.
Jamie, see if you can find that.
And he's
What would
really
be the
good.
scene? What would be the scene that we look for?
I'd be right towards the end of the film, and it's just sort of like little sharp cuts. No, that's Mark. Some of those scenes. No, not that one. That's the end fight. So just prior to this, there's it goes through a series of fights. Currently forgetting the man's name. His first name's Troy. I can't remember his surname. He went on to become light heavyweight champion of Canada, and a couple of these guys are Olympians and stuff that were in the fight. But the hardest hit I've ever received is in that fight with Troy, because he was a southpaw and we both went in the same direction. We clashed heads. Fuck me. And then we just had to keep going with the scene, right? But I'm like literally seeing stars. It was like somebody had like put a piece of metal through my temple, you know? We just went, you know, we both moved to get out of the way and we just smacked heads. Yeah, this fight, that's all real. There's no choreography.
Wow.
And he was good, man. He was fast and he was like on me all the time.
Dude, you were fit as fuck back then.
A little bit, you know.
God
I was
damn,
40.
man.
I was 40 at the time. So I weighed the same in the opening sequence of Cinderella Man. I weighed the same as when I left high school.
Wow. It was a great movie, man. You did it justice.
Well, that's the thing. When you're playing somebody that's real, you know, you've got to respect them, man. You've got to, you know, you got to put that effort in to, you know, to honor them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That was-
Especially someone as legendary as Braddock.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, you have to dial into his body, you know, his body language. You know, he used to do this little foot flick thing, right, to get himself around, you know, where he always, like, he would move his front foot first. He wouldn't cross his feet over at all, you know. So he's just sort of crabbing up on somebody and going back, you know. Learning that, getting that drilled into my head because it felt so unnatural, you know. But it's there, and it, you know, after a while you get it. You can move quite fast here, you know. But that natural instinct is to sort of cross your feet over, but that leads to all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. It was a very interesting experience doing that movie. And Ron Howard, as the director, you know, I'd worked with him the year before on A Beautiful Mind, and he's a very exacting guy, and he likes to do things over and over again, you know. So when we first started that shoot, I don't know if you know this, but I subluxated my left shoulder. I was doing a little fight with a guy called Wayne Gordon, another Canadian Olympian, and he just caught me on the point of my elbow and just put my shoulder out, you know. But because I was so fit at the time and so strong, it went out and back in. But it came back in with such force that it broke the bone.
Oh.
So I had to go and have an operation. Tore the labrum tissue and broke the bone. So I had an op, and the normal recovery is like 3.5 months or something, right? But I was making a movie. I couldn't do that. So I you know, and they were going to cancel the film. They're going to just shut it down and all that. And I was like, no. I've waited for years to do this film, and I've already done the training, so we've got to finish this. Just give me, you know, X amount of weeks.
And you're allergic to cortisone.
Yeah, which was, you know, really problematic on that situation, you know. But 20 days on the 21st day of rehab, I stepped in the ring and did 10 3-minute rounds. On the 21st day after the operation. So, but that has led to ongoing problems, which the doctor did say at the time. If you try and cut this short, the arthritis you're going to experience when you get older is going to be mind-numbing, and he's absolutely right.
When you were playing Braddock, did you smoke all through the training?
I smoked in the ring. Right? There's photographs. I had a guy because you can't take your gloves off on,
right.
You know. And so I used to just go over to the corner, he'd stick it in my mouth and go, pop.
Wow.
You know? But then we developed a set of gloves that were Velcroed. So they had the laces on the outside, but they're actually Velcro. I could get them out so I could have a cigarette. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, you know, not constantly, but, you know, we'd be, you know, doing a shooting day in the ring. You know, you're in the ring all fucking day, you know. So you're going to be in the ring doing boxing stuff for 12 hours. So when we started that film, Ron Howard's idea was to do the first 35 days of boxing and then do the scenes afterwards. But after we did the first fight, you know, which took 6 or 7 days, you know, I said, you've got to rethink that. You know, I'm rehabbing from the shoulder 35 days in a row. It's like, it's going to break down, man. You know, we have to. So we redid the schedule and we cycled back into the boxing. So I'd box Mondays and Tuesdays, and then basically Wednesday would be off physically, and then I would start the prep gearing up for the next boxing day, you know. And what was good about it is that it kept me in shape through the whole shoot. You know, if we'd done 35 days of boxing, then stopped, and then done another 30 shooting days where I didn't have to box, you know, James J. Braddock would have changed shape during the course of the film. You know, it was because I was cycling back into the boxing that I stayed in shape and kept improving. You know, because we had gaps in between, so I'd learn a little bit more from Angelo or whatever, and would be able to adjust something. So it was a really good choice to make because it made, and it was because of doing that Ron was able to clearly see we need another gear change between now and the championship, and that's when we came up with the idea, well, the only way we can have a gear change is if we just do it for real, you know.
Wow.
But when I did the real fight, I did it with the fella Troy, he was a real lovely bloke, great boxer, great athlete, incredible on the ropes, you know, on the skipping rope, just superior. I did it with him because I wanted the challenge of doing it, you know, if we're going to do it for real, I want to do it with him. And, you know, we're chasing each other around that ring. It was an incredible experience, but I wasn't, you know, it's just that thing is like, he's a good, solid guy, and I know he was never going to kill me.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
You know, there was a couple of blokes in that cast.
Yeah.
I was like, if he gets the opportunity, he's too feral. He'll just take my head off. If I give him half a freaking break, he'll just, you know.
Yep, there's guys like that out there.